So Adam and I show up, and at their office, they were having an event that night after the convention. I didn't know they had a company. I didn't even know any of this was happening. All I know is I showed up to talk to Christina, wasn't my SMD yet, but my financial advisor, to talk to her about my accounts, and there's a whole event going on. And they start like introducing us to people and, you know, kind of meeting and greeting us, and then they put us down in a chair, and then they start doing the overview again. And we're like, we've seen this already, you know? But I was like, this time, I'm gonna do it. Like, I wanna get started. And I made this decision in my mind. Well, mind you, Adam, my boyfriend, he was progressively dissatisfied with, you know, his lack of a plan for his future, and wanting to get married. And he's like, and he decides in his mind during the overview, I'm gonna do this. Because what happened was, he had actually gotten a plan in place too. And Christina had set a plan for him to get out of debt. She made no money doing this, by the way, but she just taught him about his credit cards and said, look, if you keep going how you're going, you'll be in debt for the rest of your life. You know, but here's a plan to get out of debt in 12 months. Well, Adam implemented that plan and got totally out of debt in 8 months. And so he saw what the company did was good, right? And then he started putting away money in his, you know, in his policies, his, you know, little long-term bucket, his midterm bucket, and he was really excited. So he realized, oh, this is not a pyramid scheme. I didn't even know what I was talking about. This company's really good for people. What they do is good. So in his mind, he's like, I want to do it. So we're both individually thinking that, and at the end, they hand out this follow-up card, and we look at each other, and we both go, I'm doing it. So we both got started the exact same day. And flash forward, we were just fired up. We were excited. We wanted to share this with everybody. So my first month, I recruited 8 people, well, with the help of my trainer. So I recruited 8 people, and I was so excited about it. I was trying to figure out any way I could get the word of mouth out about what we were doing. And this is pre-Zoom. So I remember having, like, at my house, I was like, everybody come to my house, I'll cook food, you'll get to see what we do. My trainer came, did the presentation, we got 8 recruits, we started implementing some plans, I started studying for my licenses, and then guess what happened the next month? 7 of them quit. I was like, what? And then when people quit, they have to justify why they quit. So they started saying negative things, like, you know, it's just one of those things, you gotta recruit people, you gotta talk to people, their meetings go so long. They started saying these negative things. So I started thinking, well, maybe I should quit. Because I didn't like the way it felt. I didn't like them saying negative things. Maybe I should quit. And you know the one teammate, that out of the 8, I had one that stuck. Guess who that was? Adam was upline. My AMA was underneath his. He got recruited like 2 minutes before me. So, my only recruit that stuck, my mom. My mom, the only one. But you know what? There's something powerful in that. My mom was a successful business owner. My mom was a doctor of chiropractic. My parents, both of my parents, my mom and dad met in chiropractic school, ended up getting married, opening up their own business, and having their own medical practice. They actually were chiropractors, but they employed orthopedic surgeons, physical therapists, you know, they employed many other chiropractors. They owned a business. So I grew up seeing my parents own a business. I saw my parents have control of their time, have control of their income, and they pretty much employed the rest of my family. All of my aunts and uncles worked for my parents. Whether it was the front desk or the back office, they worked, or marketing, they worked for my parents. And I couldn't have articulated this at a young age, but I started observing that the people who owned a business, my parents, made more money, always went on trips, and they were tax write-offs because they were business trips, right? Because they employed all of our family. So the whole family would go on vacation and they could write the whole thing off. And my dad would always find, like, every spring break we went on a cruise. We did an Alaska cruise, Bahama cruise, because he would find a chiropractic seminar on a cruise. All of us would get to go. He'd spend a couple hours in a meeting. The whole trip was a write-off, right? And so I saw that my family got to do that. Meanwhile, I saw a lot of the employees, they didn't have control control of their time. They didn't have control of their income. In fact, I remember hearing my parents talk about whether or not somebody should get a raise. I remember my mom was always very generous. We should give my brother a raise because they just had another baby and got a new minivan. And my dad, who was a super hard worker, was like, that doesn't mean you get a raise. Right? What's the reason to give a raise is because of higher profitability, more work, right? And so as a young girl, I would listen to them, and I remember thinking man, I never want to be in the position where someone is determining my worth. I never want to be in a position where I got to determine someone else's worth. I mean, I'd rather be the one determining than being determined about if given the choice, right? But you know what I'm saying? And I just saw the business owners have lifestyle and the employees don't. The business owners have unlimited income, the employees are capped. It just was very clear to me. So being a young woman, I got enough exposure, even though I recruited 8 people and 7 people quit the next month, I had enough exposure in those few weeks in the business to see this was a real opportunity. To see that people were making money here, and what we did was very powerful. I spent enough time going out in the field in my field training to see people really needed what we do. In fact, all of my family, my parents, who had a really nice house and drove really nice cars, you know what I found out? My parents were in their mid-50s, 55 and 57. They had never had a financial plan done for them. They had $20,000 saved for retirement and a term life insurance policy. That's it. And my parents made 7 figures a year. But no one taught them how to manage their money. No one taught them how money worked. So they made great money and they spent great money. Who's I got that financial plan down, right? Don't raise your hand. But that's Americans. That's most Americans. They look good on the outside, but on the inside, But here's the thing. The reason that my mom stuck around was because why? Number one, she was like, why didn't anybody teach me this? Why didn't anybody teach me this principle of saving and investing? Why didn't they teach me this? We would have done it. We would have done it. My parents learned the principle of tithing when they were brand new Christians, and they did it from the beginning. They tithed 10% of their income faithfully. What if somebody would just tell them, just save 10% too, and save it in the right place? Save it in a place where you grow and not lose. Save it in a place where you can shelter it from taxes. What if somebody would have taught them that? They would have done it. They would have looked completely different at 55 and 57. So even though I had 7 people quit on me, I was convicted about what we did for families. I was convicted about the education. And I thought, this is a noble cause. Not only is it a business, but it's a noble cause. The other thing that I saw was, I saw my parents talk about business all the time. I know what they talked about when they opened up their first medical practice. Guess what they had to do in order to open it up? Go into a lot of debt. Why do you think they only had 20,000 saved in their 50s? They had to go into a lot of debt to open up their practice. Not only that, they had to go to school for 4 years, college. Then they had to go to chiropractic school for 4 years, and then they had to pass the state boards, and then they had to go work for another doctor to learn, because just because you pass a test, we all know, doesn't mean you know how to actually do anything. So they had to work for another doctor for some reason. Then they had to take all this risk to open up an office and all this debt and hire people and have payroll and all this equipment, because chiropractors need a lot of equipment. They had to do all of that. And then what? You need patience. So you got to figure out how to market it, how to build insurance companies, all of that. And I heard them talking about it. Meanwhile, I go to a WFG meeting and I'm like, it's a simple system. If you can follow this simple system of just talking to somebody, presenting who we are and what we do, help them get started in our business and get started with a financial plan, one or the other or both, preferably, right? And you just do that over and over and over again, you can build an incredible business. And you get recognized to do it with trophies and plaques, and you can go to Hawaii for free. You get to go to Hawaii on the company's time. You guys, traveling's fun, but it's way more fun when somebody else pays. Right? It's just better. my friends quit. I hated that people would say no to me. I hated talking to people. I was so scared. I was so nervous. I had so much fear. But you know what I hated more? Being a nobody.
Thank you.
I mean, I wasn't really a nobody. Obviously, I was a child of God. You know what I mean? But like, not being broke, being frustrated. Adam and I got married when we were really young. We had, like, when I got married, my dad was like, bye, you're on your own now. I was like, give me the debit card back. Like, you're cut off, literally. I remember, my dad used to take the whole family to Hawaii, like on his employees, but I didn't work for my dad because I chose not to. In fact, I told my dad, I said, Dad, I love you so much, but I saw you build a business. I want to build a business. I can't take over the family business. I have to wait until you die for me to take over the family business, and I don't want to be waiting for you to die. So I gotta go build my own business, right? And so when the whole family went to Hawaii, he said, oh, well, I'm not paying for you. You're not an employee. You gotta pay your own way. I was like, but I'm your daughter. I was like, no, yeah, that's your husband's job and your job now, cutie pie, And so my husband, just tell this story really quickly. My husband, his uncle was a pilot for United. So he said, my uncle can get us standby tickets. All we have to do is pay the taxes. I said, let's go. So my whole family's going to Hawaii. We're like, we're going to go fly United. All I did was pay the taxes. It was a couple $100. We show up. This is during spring break. We spent the whole day at the airport and could not get on one airplane. So my whole family's in Hawaii. My dad's like, do you want me to buy you a ticket? I'm like, yes, Dad. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was $2,000. $1,000 for me, $1,000 for Adam because it was last minute. I paid every penny back. I paid my dad $200 a month for a year because he made me. And I was like, I will never borrow money from you again. Honestly, I hated the way it felt to have to pay him back. I hated the way it felt to not be able to just buy a ticket to Hawaii and go. I hated the way it felt. And I'm working at this restaurant and my shirts had to be starched so tight that I would get scabs on my neck. And the general manager was just mean. Just mean. And I remember one day, I'm the type of person I want to do a good job. I want to please the people I'm working for, right? I show up to work and it's Halloween. I still remember this. Halloween day. And nobody goes to eat Halloween night at a restaurant. Everyone's out trick-or-treating with their family. And it was a nice steakhouse kind of restaurant. So nobody's there, it's dead. So the manager, here I'm working on holiday, thinks it's a good idea to recertify me and make sure I know the whole menu. So he sits at my table and I have to serve him dinner like he's a guest. And he's asking me all the ingredients of the dressings and the sushi rolls. And I'm getting everything right. And it comes part where he's, at the very end, he orders dessert. And it says, what flavor ice cream is on the apple walnut cobbler? And I said, vanilla. So at the end of all of the certification, he gives me my report card, and he says, you need to pay more attention to detail. And I thought I did a really good job. I was impressed with myself. I said, what did I get wrong? He said, when I asked you the type of ice cream, you said vanilla. I was like, it is vanilla. He goes, it's vanilla bean. Meanwhile, I'm in the business. I'm working my butt off. I'm making phone calls before my shift, going into work, working my shift, in my car, changing out of the business, out of my clothes, smelling like hamburgers and steaks, putting on a business suit, going out in the field night after night after night. And I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself. I'm on my SMG run. I was literally on my SMG run. And he said that to me, and it made me feel so small. And I made a decision in that moment, I'm never going to be in a position for someone to make me feel so small ever again. And I walked out of that, and I planned my exit strategy. And I remember giving them my resignation letter, saying, thank you so much for teaching me how to persevere, how to show up and go to work no matter what you feel like. But I'm never coming back. I'm a senior marketing director now, okay? You don't know what that is yet, but you wait, one day you will, okay? And I just remember in this visit, like, feeling like I just wanted it so bad. Adam and I had, we lived, when we first got married, we lived in this is when we first started the business, right? So we're newlyweds, we get started in the business, we're broke as a joke, waiting tables. This was the day I fired my boss. Look at how happy I am. I was like, I'm never going to wear these non-slip shoes again. Right? Ever. Oh my gosh, that was great. Is there a slide right before that?
I know.
Or is there one? I can't remember. Oh no, go back. Yeah, so that was when we first started, and that was our first little team once we hit SMD. That's our first little team with our purple polo shirts, and our first daughter was only 6 months old. I have her in the baby yard. And that's us making our first vision board in the office. I know, it's so cute, right? So check this out. So now we hit SMD, we go to a convention, and we were in a position where we needed to open up our own office right away. It just was the way that it kind of worked out, and we weren't really ready to. But we're scared out of our minds, we're first-time parents, we're brand new SMDs, we just gave our exchange rate, and we sign our lease on an office. And we're like, oh my gosh, like, what are we gonna do? And so we decided, we made a decision. Have you ever been in your business and you kind of feel like, am I really giving this thing all I got? Am I really giving this thing all I got? That's how I felt. It took me 3 years to hit SMD. It doesn't have to take that long. But you want to know why it took me that long? Because I didn't sell out. I didn't totally commit. I thought I was playing small until I got married and was broke and had a baby and it was paying my dad back $200 a month for a Hawaii trip. And I thought, I'm going to qualify for one of those free Hawaii trips. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to stop playing small. But here's why I was playing small. When my people quit on me way back when, there was something inside me that hated. I took it personal. I literally felt like they were rejecting me. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? They weren't rejecting themselves, no. Not their own dreams, no. Not what we do. They were rejecting me. And I hated the way it felt so much. So I made this decision. I wasn't a quitter. I couldn't quit. I couldn't quit because I knew what we did was so good. And because I cared what people thought. I literally was like, if I quit, everyone's going to think I'm a quitter. And so now I got to stay. But unless I can find something better, which I couldn't, because there really is nothing better. So I guess I gotta stay, and I gotta somehow get tougher. I gotta get stronger. I gotta get over my addiction to the approval of other people. I know probably you guys don't struggle with that, but that was like a real struggle for me. I hated the way it felt to be rejected. And so I remember being so frustrated. And my husband, Adam, when he was 6 months old, he had a vaccination. And it was a bad batch. The pharmaceutical company came out with a bad batch, and he got it back in 1984, whatever year he was born, right? And so he has nerve damage to the whole right side of his body. So he can't use his right arm. It's like a little tiny arm, and he walks with a limp. And so growing up, everything took longer for him. He was different, right? He's a very handsome man, you could tell, right there. But he's different. He had to tie a shoe with one arm. He had to learn how to ride a bike with one arm. He had to learn how to, go out and surf like all the other guys with one arm. And everything took longer for him. And so I remember being so frustrated and wanting to win so bad. I hated going to events. How many of you last night were like, I want to win a trophy? I want to be the one on stage, right? I want that to be me. I hated the way it felt to not win. I was like, I want to be the one speaking on stage. I want to tell my story one day. You're really good at this business. Why are you holding back? What are you so afraid of? And then the words came out of my mouth. I guess I just care what people think. Can you imagine living your whole life and never fully getting to live your dream life because you're afraid of what people think? What a shame. People do it all the time.
Yes.
And he said, you know what? He goes, I remember this day in high school. I was a freshman in high school. And I'm walking in, and it's like lunchtime. And all the kids are eating lunch down, in the lunch area. And there were these steps going up into the gymnasium. And I was walking up the steps. So he's walking up the steps, right? And all the kids are eating. This was where my family was going to win. This was where I was going to plant my flag. This is where I was going to build a business. I didn't want to be an employee. I didn't want to be self-employed. I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted freedom. I wanted control. I didn't want somebody else dictating my worth. It was going to be here. And once I took ownership of that and I just shared it with pride, guess what? Our business started to explode. And we started to make things happen. And things started to win. The first step to success in anything is total commitment. Imagine you go get married. You're like, well, I'm just going to see how this works out until I'm not happy anymore, or until I feel like it. How successful is the marriage going to be? No, it's till death do us part, in sickness and in health, right? If we're rich or if we're poor, in all the good and in all the bad, I'm all in.
It's not
That's
about the
when you're
number, it's
successful.
about who will stay.
Right?
It's about who will stay.
And that, if you haven't done that yet in the business, it's okay. Don't break up. Keep dating.
Love it.
One more real quick story, because this is another amazing story about my husband. We started dating. We were friends for a long time, and then we started dating. And I tried to break up with him because I was like, when you're friends, you don't ever fight. Like, what's to fight about when you're a friend? But once you start dating, kind of have some friction sometimes. Like, you don't agree on things all the time, so you kind of start to argue, and I hated it. So I was like, we're fighting. I don't like how this was. I liked it better when we were friends and we just got along. So I was like, we should break up. So I told him, I think we should break up. This was over the phone, by the way, in college. And he goes, well, I don't think we should break up. I go, well, I think we should. He goes, why? I go, we're fighting all the time. He goes, yeah, that's what happens. So you think you're just going to get along all the time? You think that's how relationships work? No, you fight, you work it out. You become stronger after. I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. and I go, but I don't know, you seem to be so sure I'm the one for you, and I'm not so sure yet that you're the one for me. And he goes, that's okay. You don't have to know that yet. You'll get there. Maybe I should date other people to find out if you're the one. He goes, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm like, why? He goes, you're not going to find out I'm the one by dating other people. You're going to find out I'm the one by dating me. I'm like, that also makes sense. He's like, how about this? Is there some other guy you think you want to date right now? I'm like, no. He's like, so there's no other guy. I'm like, no, literally, that's not what this is about. There's no other guy. I'm like, he goes, fearful? I'm like, yeah. He goes, of commitment? I'm like, yeah. He goes, how about this? We stay together. If there ever comes another guy you want to date other than me, then we'll break up. Till then, we're still together. I go, okay, sounds good. 14 years married, 4 kids later, the guy was right? So that's what I'm saying.
Wow.
Some people, they see the business, they sell out right away. Those people are making $2 million a year in 2 years. Some people see the business, like me. I wish it happened faster, but you can't change your own story. It took me some time. But the best thing I did is I never stopped showing up. I figured, if there's no other thing today, might as well stick around here. If I don't got anything better, might as well stay here. If this opportunity can't offer me unlimited income, might as well stay here. If this opportunity doesn't have a simple system, no investment, you know what I mean? I might as well stick around here. If I don't got something better, I might as well stick around here. And I stuck around and I stuck around and I went to every single training, every single meeting, every single big event, every single elite circle. But I didn't just attend, I competed. I wanted to become the best. I wanted, if I was going to do it, I wanted to freaking do it. You know what I mean? Like some people, they just think it's like professional meeting attendance. You're supposed to make money here, right? And so I was like, like, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta really do it. But I still wasn't sold out. But it was when I committed and I sold out that our whole life changed.
Amen to that.
It took me 7 years to get to $100,000 income. But then every single year after that, I increased it by 100 grand. Not bad. I mean, it doesn't even take that long. I'm not saying this out to be proud. Like 7 years, it could take you guys like 7 months, for real. But I had to grow. I had to grow. And so it took me 7 years, and then every year after that, I increased it by 100K. And so now, go to the next page. But what was it that really changed for me? Not only did I sell out to the business, but I sold out to recruiting and building a base shop. I sold out to recruiting and building a team. Why? Because in WG, you can be self-employed, and that's what takes you 7 years to get, right? You can be self-employed, or you could be a business owner. If you're self-employed, can you imagine like being in a Tesla, but driving it like it's a Prius? Think about it. That's kind of like being in WG and not fully selling out to recruiting and building. Do you get that? It's not actually driving the vehicle the way it was designed to give it all the power. So it was and the reason I didn't want to recruit was because I didn't like the way it felt when somebody quit. So I decided, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to be totally committed, and I'm going to sell out to recruiting and building. So for me, am the type of person, like, I got to understand why. Like, but why do we recruit? Like, why are we recruiting? I want to know why. And so here's another reason. If any of you like me in the room, like, they talk about recruiting all the time. Yeah, there's a reason. Number one, why to recruit? The market demand. 80% of Americans don't think their retirement savings is on track. 106 million adults lack any life insurance coverage or any coverage of any adequacy. 80% of consumers say buying life insurance is a relevant financial planning topic for their household.